I don't know about you, but I've really gotten into retro games recently. The only problem I find is that a lot of them aren't compatible with modern controllers, or that Steam's inbuilt controller support doesn't work quite as expected with some commands missing, meaning the game is unplayable. Yeah, I know I should be a WASD keyboard warrior as I'm playing on PC, but after years of playing on consoles, and not having the ideal desk setup, a controller is my go-to method for gameplay at the moment. While there are a few controller remapping software programs on the market such as REWASD, I'm going to be looking at one that's a bit older but, in my opinion, is the most user-friendly and flexible to use. What's that program called? XPadder. The basic XPadder software and website haven't really been updated for around 10 years, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Right. Head on over to xpadder.com, select your language, then select your country and enter your email address where prompted. It's important to note that there is no free trial of XPadder. You have to purchase it in order to activate your download, but it's only £6, under $8, so it's not going to break the bank. To install, click on the link in the email that you've been sent, complete your purchase through PayPal, and you'll now be able to download XPadder. I can't show you this bit as I've had it installed for a while now. Sorry. After that, you'll be shown the configuration screen. You'll need to ensure that your controller is connected and turned on, or the next steps won't work. XPadder works with PS4 Dual Shock, Xbox 360 and Xbox controllers, and I'm pretty sure you will be able to configure it with any other Bluetooth or USB controller too. Unlike other apps such as REWASD, which detects the controller and defines the layout for you, with XPadder you are the one to dictate what the controller looks like and what the button layout is. This means that it's extremely flexible and will fit in with almost any controller or game. Firstly, we're going to need an image of our controller so we know where all the buttons are situated. You can probably do this step without an image, but that'll create a whole big mess later on, so just image search your model of controller. You'll then need to resize the controller image so that it's 512 pixels wide by 256 pixels high. If you try to use a different size image, then XPadder will throw a wobbly, so you will need to resize it outside of the app using something like Photoshop or GIMP. Once you have your image, copy it from your graphics program into memory using Ctrl+C. You can't upload the image, it needs to be pasted, which is kind of weird, but oh well. Click on the paste button and your controller graphic will now be added to XPadder. I'd save the controller configuration at this point just to be on the safe side. To do this, click OK on the paste screen, and then on the controller screen on the top left, click on the little floppy disk save icon. I recommend keeping the save location default, but make sure you name your controller layout something sensible so you can find it later if you swap controllers a lot, as XPadder doesn't really differentiate between game and controller configuration files. Now that we've saved it, we're on to the fun part. You need to figure out what keys in the game you need to map to what buttons and sticks on the controller. I try to stick to standard layouts I use across multiple games, so that right trigger is fire, circle button is crouch, and so on. Go into your game and make a note of all of the keys that you want to map to your controller. Unfortunately, a lot of older keyboard-based games will have more keys than buttons, so you will have to compromise and still use the keyboard occasionally. This isn't a big deal though, just choose the controls that you will use most often, like movement, weapons, interaction, and so on, and make a note of what the keys and commands are. Some games will allow you to overlay the XPadder window on top of them so you can check the commands and map them in XPadder with the game open. Unfortunately, Far Cry didn't let me do this, so I had to do it the old-fashioned way. Don't judge my handwriting, I was in a rush. Once you have the commands you want to map and an idea of the buttons you want to map them to, you need to add them to a game configuration file in XPadder. Click on the little gamepad icon on the top left and go down to Settings. Select sticks. Then select Enabled on the left stick and follow the prompts to add your left analog stick. You'll notice a circle has appeared on the screen. This is a representation of the stick we just added. If you click and drag it, you can move it over the actual location of the left analog stick, which makes the layout make a bit more sense, plus it looks tidier, which is always nice. Go ahead and do the same thing with the right stick. Following the on-screen prompts, move the stick location into the right place and we're done. Great, you've just added your analog sticks. Now we want to add the D-pad. The way we do this is pretty much the same as the sticks. Click on the D-pad from the options list on the left. Click Enabled and follow the on-screen prompts, which tell you what buttons on the D-pad to hit. Once you're done, drag it into the appropriate place, and that's that. Now we move on to buttons, which is a little more complicated. Click on the Buttons section on the left selection menu and then press a button. On the right of the button screen, depending on what you just pressed, you'll get some text in the box that says Button 1, button 2, etc. You can overwrite this with something that makes more sense like triangle, square, or whatever you would like to name that button. After each button is added, a small square box will appear in the controller view pane. Make sure you move that to the correct button placement straight away or you will get super confused later. Believe me, I've been there. It's important to note that while there is a trigger section on the left-hand panel, with the PS4 Dual Shock controller, at least the L1 and R1 triggers are classed as buttons, so go ahead and add them on the button screen now. You can also add your L3, R3, PlayStation button, trackpad, option, and start buttons too if you'd like to use them as well. So once we have all the buttons entered and placed, click on OK to back out of the button dialog, and it's now time to start mapping the keys. With XPadder you can have many different profiles and even multiple profiles for each game. It's basically up to you on how you configure your controller. To add a button mapping, click on the button on the config screen. You'll now get an on-screen keyboard pop-up which shows all of the keyboard and mouse options available. Here I have chosen to map the right trigger, which is going to be fire. So that is the left mouse button. I can then go through and add all the other key and mouse mapping by clicking the button I want to map and then selecting the appropriate key on the on-screen keyboard, or hitting the corresponding key on my physical keyboard or mouse. Once a button is mapped, it will appear highlighted in blue on the on-screen keyboard so you can keep track of what keys and mouse buttons you've already placed. If you want a button to serve multiple functions, such as if you tap circle you crouch and if you long press you go prone, you can go into the advanced settings and set multiple key options based on length of time pressed. But that's out of the scope of this video as I've not really played with it. Let me know in the comments if that would be a tutorial you are interested in seeing. So after you have mapped your keys and mouse movements to the sticks and buttons you want, you're basically all set. Let's save this configuration with a sensible name. Again, XPadder doesn't differentiate between different controllers, so if you have a Far Cry config for Xbox, and then save this Dual Shock as Far Cry, it will overwrite your Xbox One, so be warned. Then all we need to do is have the config loaded and XPadder running and we should be good to go. One thing to note, that when I was using the trial of REWASD it ran all the time. Even after quitting it seemed to persist in the background and would interfere with programs that it shouldn't. XPadder is great in that when you quit, it really quits. Anyway, let's try this out. So out of the box, so to speak, it's not perfect. We need to change mouse sensitivity, or we'll get motion sickness, but that's a quick fix. Here I've added in a controller overlay so you can see what the sticks and buttons are doing. So, the great thing is that you can edit profiles on the fly. Need a special button or forgotten to add prone like me? Alt-tab out of the game, add it into XPadder, and it's immediately available with no messing about. And here is me awkwardly playing with the controller while trying to film what I'm doing. So, that's my XPadder tutorial so you can use a controller with older games. Like I said earlier, if you use Steam it does come with limited controller support if you run it in big picture mode. But I was recently trying out an Unreal Tournament game and there was no way to crouch using the default Steam settings, which became a bit of an issue. With XPadder though, you can set your button configuration and layout to be whatever you would like it to be. All you need is the time and patience to set it up. Remember though that in some games you will still need to use the keyboard in order to get full functionality. The great thing is that you can also share configuration files, or even use a generic configuration file across multiple games. If you're interested in using my config files, let me know down below and it might spur me on to get them up on my still-to-be-designed website. Anyway, I hope you liked this video and found it useful. I know it's a little different from my usual gameplay content. Please consider subscribing as I'm looking at making more tutorial videos in the future, and thank you for watching. Take care, my nudes.